Welcome to Hidden Tales. Have you ever felt a forbidden spark that set your heart racing, even as your mind screamed to stop? Today, we dive into the story of Nathan, a young man, and Laura, his best friend's mother, set against the misty backdrop of Asheville, North Carolina. One fleeting moment will change everything. Will they dare to cross the line? Hit subscribe and ring the bell to find out. Now, step into their story. The fog blankets Asheville, draping the winding mountain roads in a soft, hazy veil. Wildflowers bloom vibrant yellow along the forested hills, like tiny flames against the crisp autumn chill. Nathan Lee, 26, rides his beat-up motorcycle, a duffel bag strapped to the back, weaving through the quiet streets toward the old cabin of his best friend, Parker. Nathan, a freelance videographer, just lost his gig in Nashville, his savings drained by rent, and now he's come to Asheville to crash at Parker's place. With tousled hair and sharp yet warm eyes, Nathan carries the rugged charm of a free spirit, though he keeps his emotions tightly guarded. "Stay as long as you need," Parker had said over the phone. "My mom won't mind," Nathan agreed, without much thought, just needing a place to hit reset. The rustic cabin looms into view, its weathered wooden walls nestled among towering pines. Nathan parks his bike, breathes in the cool, misty air, and knocks on the door. Laura, Parker's mother, opens it. At 42, she exudes the timeless elegance of a former painter known in Asheville's art scene. Her long hair falls loosely over her shoulders, a soft lavender sweater hugging her frame, her eyes carrying a quiet story untold. "You must be Nathan," she asks, her voice low, her gaze briefly scanning him. "Yeah, Parker's friend," Nathan replies, hefting his bag. "Thanks for letting me stay, Ms. Laura." She smiles faintly, stepping aside. "Come on in. Your room's upstairs." Nathan steps inside, the scent of cedar and oil paint lingering in the air. The cabin is quiet, save for the soft tick of a grandfather clock. Parker's at work, leaving Nathan and Laura alone in the sprawling house. She leads him to the guest room, sunlight filtering through tall windows, casting shadows on framed paintings lining the walls. "Have you eaten?" Laura asks, her tone polite but distant. Nathan shakes his head. "Nah, I'm good." She nods, turning away, but her eyes linger on him a moment too long, stirring something in him. That afternoon, Nathan's in the kitchen, brewing coffee in an old drip maker. Laura walks in, wearing a thin gray sweater, her hair tied loosely, a few strands brushing her neck. "You know your way around coffee," she says, leaning against the counter, her eyes curious. Nathan chuckles awkwardly. "Yeah, picked it up in Nashville." Laura grabs a mug, standing close, her faint jasmine scent catching him off guard. "Can you help me with something?" she asks. "There's a box of old paintings in the shed. It's too heavy for me to carry to the attic." Nathan nods. "Sure thing." They head to the shed, where dusty wooden crates are stacked high. Nathan lifts a box of paintings, not too heavy, but he moves slowly, lingering in her presence. They climb to the attic, a cramped space lit by a small window. Nathan sets the box down, wiping sweat from his brow. Laura stands closer than necessary, her eyes locked on his. "Thanks, Nathan," she says, her voice soft. "If I were younger, I might have asked you to stay longer." Her words hit like a spark, catching him off guard. He laughs nervously. "I'm just good at moving boxes." But her gaze, deep and suggestive, holds him captive. They stand there in the tight attic, inches apart. Nathan feels her breath, notices the curve of her shoulder under the sweater. "Ms. Laura," he says, his voice unsteady. "I'm not used to words like that." She smiles, her eyes flickering like embers. "Better get used to it, Nathan." The air thickens, an invisible thread pulling them closer. Nathan wants to speak, to break the tension, but the words stick in his throat. Laura steps forward, her fingers brushing his as she takes the box, a fleeting touch that sends his heart racing. "Head back downstairs," she says, her voice low, "but this house is always open if you want it to be." Nathan leaves the attic, his pulse pounding as he descends the stairs. He sits in the living room, staring out the window, where Laura stands on the porch, the fog wrapping her like a painting. He knows he's being pulled into something dangerous, a forbidden spark he shouldn't let ignite. But her eyes, her touch, her cryptic words, they've lit a fire in him, and he's not sure he can put it out. The next evening. Moonlight filters through the pines, casting the cabin in a ghostly glow. Parker's at work, leaving Nathan and Laura alone again. Nathan tries to stay busy, editing a promo video on his laptop, but his eyes keep drifting to the window, where Laura stands on the porch, cradling a mug of tea, her gray sweater hugging her frame. She gazes into the distance, lost in thought. Nathan takes a deep breath, forcing his focus back to the screen, but her image lingers. A soft knock interrupts. Laura steps in, her hair loose, her eyes warm yet enigmatic. "Busy?" she asks, standing near the door. Nathan shakes his head, closing his laptop. "Not really, just wrapping up some work." She smiles, stepping closer to the table. "Can you help me with something? The bookshelf in the living room's wobbly, needs fixing." Nathan's heart skips. "Yeah, I'll take a look." They move to the living room, where an old oak bookshelf leans slightly, books tilting on the shelves. Nathan checks it, finding a few loose screws, nothing major, but he pretends to focus. Grabbing a screwdriver from his small toolkit, Laura sits on the nearby sofa watching him. "You're handy," she says, her voice soft. "When I was younger, I loved fixing things. Now I don't make time for it." Nathan glances up, catching her gaze deep as a winter lake. "You've still got time," he says, his voice catching. "You just live differently now." Laura's smile widens, her eyes glinting. "You see me more than I thought, Nathan." They start talking. Small talk at first. Nathan shares stories of Nashville late nights, tight deadlines, scraping by in a tiny apartment. Laura listens, nodding occasionally, her eyes never leaving him. "You're young, Nathan," she says. "The world's yours to explore. Why come to Asheville?" He pauses, meeting her gaze. "I don't know. Maybe to find something real." Laura tilts her head, her eyes searching his. "Have you found it yet?" Nathan swallows hard, his heart pounding. "I'm getting there." The air grows heavy, like the fog outside seeping into the room. Nathan tightens a screw, his hands trembling slightly. Laura stands, stepping closer, handing him an old book from the shelf. "Ever read this?" she asks, her voice low. It's a worn novel about warrior artists. Her fingers brush his as she hands it over, a brief touch that sets his skin on fire. "Not yet," he says, unable to look away. Laura stands closer than needed, her eyes locked on his. "Ever wanted to do something wrong, Nathan?" she asks, her voice a whisper. He takes a shaky breath, his pulse racing. "Yeah," he admits, his voice rough. "But I'm scared of what comes after." Laura smiles, her eyes like a smoldering fire. "Sometimes the consequences are worth it, if it makes you feel alive." She steps closer, just one small step, but it's enough to make the space between them vanish. Nathan feels her breath, her jasmine scent overwhelming him. He stands, setting the screwdriver down, and steps toward her, closing the gap. "Ms. Laura," he whispers, "what are we doing?" She leans in, her hair brushing his shoulder, warm and soft. "I don't know, Nathan, but I don't want to stop." Her heartbeat echoes in the silence, their faces inches apart. He wants to kiss her, to cross this forbidden line. But Parker's ringtone blares from his phone, shattering the moment. Nathan steps back, fumbling for his phone. "Yo, Parker, what's up?" Parker's voice booms through. "I'm on my way home. You at the house. Let's grab a beer tonight." Nathan glances at Laura, who's back on the sofa, her eyes still burning but now tinged with worry. "Yeah, I'm here," he says, forcing a steady tone. When he hangs up, he looks at Laura. "Parker's coming back." She nods, standing, brushing her hair behind her ear, revealing the curve of her neck. "Come back tomorrow?" she asks, her voice low. "I started a new painting. I want you to see it." Nathan knows this isn't just about art. He should say no, keep his distance, but her eyes, a silent promise, pull him in. "Yeah," he says, his voice hoarse. "Tomorrow, 7 p.m. Laura smiles, her eyes lighting up. "Good. I'll be waiting." Nathan steps onto the porch, the cold fog biting through his jacket. He glances back at the cabin, seeing Laura by the window, watching him. He climbs onto his bike, not starting it right away. He knows he's stepping into dangerous territory, where right and wrong blur. He thinks of Parker, his loyal friend, and guilt claws at him. But he also thinks of Laura, her gaze, her touch, the way she makes him feel alive. He starts the bike, riding off into the mist, her image in his gray sweater, her eyes, and her invitation for tomorrow haunting him. He knows tomorrow night, in her studio, will change every cabin's and porch lights flickering through the fog. Nathan stands outside Laura's art studio, his heart pounding under his black tee. He knocks lightly, nerves buzzing. Laura opens the door, wearing a thin white silk blouse that clings to her, her hair loose, strands grazing her shoulders. Her eyes light up when she sees him, but there's a flicker of hesitation, like she's wrestling with herself. "You came," she says, her voice low, a faint smile on her lips. "Come in." Nathan steps inside, the scent of oil paint and jasmine dizzying him. The studio is small, cluttered with easels and canvases, lit by soft, dim light that feels like another world. Laura leads him to a covered painting on a wooden easel. "This is the one I mentioned," she says, pulling the cloth away to reveal an abstract burst of color-swirling lines. Fierce yet tender. Nathan stares at it, but his eyes quickly shift to her. "It's beautiful," he says, his voice rough. "But you're more beautiful." Laura turns, catching his gaze, and smiles, her eyes sparkling. "You shouldn't say that, Nathan," she says, but her voice trembles, like she wants him to keep going. She steps closer, pointing to a detail on the canvas, her shoulder brushing his. "This part, I painted it thinking of things I shouldn't," she says, her voice a near whisper. Nathan feels her breath. He hears the faint rhythm of her heartbeat. "Ms. Laura," he whispers, "we're playing with fire." She tilts her head, her eyes locked on his. "Are you brave enough to live for what you feel, Nathan, even just once?" Her words pierce him, striking deep. He takes a shaky breath, his heart racing. "I can't stop thinking about you," he admits, his voice raw. "But I'm scared of hurting Parker, of hurting you." Laura smiles, her eyes both gentle and fierce. "Sometimes pain is the price of feeling alive." She steps closer, just one small step, erasing the space between them. Nathan's body hums, his hand brushing her arm, feeling the silk and the warmth beneath. Laura doesn't pull away, her eyes inviting, her lips parted. "Miss Laura," he whispers, leaning in, their lips inches apart, their breaths mingling. The air is thick, like Asheville's fog wrapping them in a private world. He wants to kiss her, to cross this forbidden line, but a sharp knock at the door breaks the spell. "Laura, I'm here for the painting. It's Mike, a friend of Parker's." Laura steps back, forcing a smile, regaining her composure. "One sec, Mike," she calls, moving to the door. Nathan turns, pretending to study the canvas, his heart still racing. Mike steps in, his eyes flicking to Nathan, surprise flashing across his face. "Nathan, what are you doing here?" he asks, curious. Nathan forces a grin. "Helped Laura with the bookshelf yesterday, stuck around to check out her art." Mike nods, but his eyes narrow slightly. "Huh, fixing shelves and art tours, nice," he says, his tone teasing but edged. Laura hands him a painting, her voice calm. "Thanks for picking it up, Mike. I'll have more tomorrow." Mike leaves, but Nathan knows that look will linger. Win. The door closes. Laura turns to Nathan, her eyes still burning but now tinged with worry. "You see," she says, her voice low, "Asheville's small. People talk." Nathan nods, stepping closer. "I'm not scared of gossip, but I don't want to hurt you or Parker." Laura sighs, sinking into a chair, her hands cradling her head. "I'm scared too, Nathan, but I can't stop thinking about you." She looks up, her eyes glistening. "Have you ever felt like you're living for everyone else, forgetting who you are?" Nathan kneels before her, his gaze steady. "Yeah, but you make me remember I can still feel." They stand close, the air heavy with unspoken desire. Nathan's hand brushes hers, his fingers tracing her soft skin, feeling her pulse. Laura grips his hand, pulling gently, saying everything without words. "Tomorrow," she whispers, "Parker's out of town. Can you come back? I want to show you another painting in my room." Nathan knows this isn't just about art. He should say no, keep his distance. But her eyes' a silent vow hold him captive. "Yeah," he says, his voice rough. "Tomorrow, 8 p.m. Nathan steps onto the porch, the fog biting through his jacket. He glances back, seeing Laura at the window, watching him. Mike's gone, but Nathan knows he'll talk, and rumors will spread. A friend of Parker's saw him here, at night, with his mother. Nathan climbs onto his bike, hesitating. He thinks of Parker, his loyal friend, and guilt gnaws at him. But he also thinks of Laura, her gaze, her touch, the way she makes him feel alive. He starts the bike, riding into the mist, her image in her white silk blouse, her eyes, her invitation for tomorrow haunting him. He knows tomorrow night in her room will lead them down a path with no return, and he's not sure he can stop. Rain pours down, the porch lanterns flickering through the storm. Nathan stands under the overhang, his black tee soaked, hair dripping. He texts Laura, "Left my camera at your place. Can I swing by?" Her reply is instant. "Doors unlocked. I'm waiting." Nathan crosses the puddles, his heart pounding. He knocks. Laura opens the door, her emerald silk dress clinging to her, wet from the rain, her hair plastered to her shoulders. She'd run out looking for him, her eyes bright, but anxious. "Nathan," she says, her voice trembling, "you're soaked." He steps inside, closing the door, the narrow hallway forcing them close. Her jasmine scent mixes with the rain, dizzying him. "Sorry for bailing yesterday," he says, his voice rough. "I didn't know what to do." Laura's eyes, soft yet intense, hold his. "Neither do I, Nathan, but I can't stop thinking about you, even knowing it's wrong." They stand inches apart, the air heavy like the storm outside. Nathan feels her breath, sees her chest rise and fall under the wet silk. Inside, a war rages. He thinks of Parker, his brother-like friend who opened his home when Nathan had nowhere to go. He sees Parker's grin, hears him say, "Your family, man. I've got your back." Crossing this line would betray that bond, stepping into a forbidden place with no way back. But Laura's eyes, a smoldering flame, drown out reason. He wants her, wants to hold this moment, no matter the cost. "Ms. Laura," he whispers, his voice shaking. "We shouldn't," but his hand, as if with a mind of its own, brushes her shoulder, fingers gliding over wet silk, feeling the warmth beneath. Laura doesn't pull away. She grips his hand, pulling gently, her eyes locked on his. "I know," she says, her voice a whisper. "But I don't care anymore, Nathan. Do you?" In Laura's heart, a storm rages too. She remembers years of silence, a loveless marriage, her husband a distant shadow. She recalls nights in her studio, painting to escape loneliness. Nathan, with his earnest eyes and gentle touch, has made her feel alive again. She knows the Koshlishville's judgment, Parker's pain, the cracks in her soul. She doesn't care, not tonight. Nathan leans in, his lips brushing hers, tentative at first like a question. Laura responds, her fingers threading through his hair, pulling him closer. The kiss deepens, passionate yet delicate, a dance of long-suppressed emotions. Nathan wraps his arms around her waist, feeling the silk under his hands, her warmth seeping into him. Laura pulls him closer, her breath quickening, as if shedding every pain, every boundary. They move to her bedroom, leaning against the bed's edge, lips never parting. The rain outside drowns all sound, as if the world beyond has vanished. Nathan feels her heartbeat strong under the silk and knows they've crossed the line. Not just a kiss, but a choice they both made. Consequences be damned. Laura pulls back, her eyes shimmering, fierce yet pained. Nathan, she whispers, still holding his hand, I don't regret this. Do you? Nathan looks at her, a storm of emotions crashing within. He thinks of Parker, of the gossip that'll spread if anyone finds out. He thinks of Laura, how she makes him feel truly alive, even in this forbidden moment. I don't regret it, he says, his voice firm but heavy. But I'm scared we're hurting ourselves. Laura smiles sadly, touching his cheek, her fingers trembling. Sometimes pain is the only way to know we're still alive. They sit on the bed's edge, silent, holding hands, clinging to the moment before it slips away. Nathan feels his heart ache, like he's found and lost something precious in one breath. He thinks of the days ahead facing Parker, Mike's suspicious glances, Asheville's whispers. He knows Mike's photo from the studio has spread, with captions like, the best friend and his mom. But in this moment, with Laura beside him, he doesn't care. Laura, too, fights her own battle. She thinks of Parker, her duty as a mother, the years she sacrificed to hold her family together. But she also thinks of herself, the woman forgotten too long. Nathan woke her, and though she knows it's wrong, she doesn't want to stop. Double quotes Ms. Laura, Nathan says, his voice rough. What do we do now? Laura looks at him, her eyes a canvas of beauty and pain. I don't know, Nathan, but tonight, I just want to be here, with you. They embrace, a tight hold, as if anchoring each other before the rain stops, before the world returns. Nathan knows they've crossed not just a moral line but one of their hearts. He knows consequences will come, but in this moment, he chooses Laura, and she chooses glinting off Lake Lure's shimmering surface. Nathan sits in a small lakeside cafe, clutching a black coffee, steam rising. 6 months have passed since that rainy night. Nathan moved out of Parker's cabin, renting a tiny apartment downtown, trying to rebuild his life, but Laura's image lingers. Today, he's meeting her one last time, not to end their story, but to face what's left unsaid. The cafe, with its worn wooden tables and the scent of roasted pecans, is where Nathan and Laura chose to meet. Nathan arrives early, sitting by the window, eyes on the misty lake. He thinks of that rainy night, their lips meeting, her heartbeat under wet silk. He thinks of Parker, his unsuspecting friend, and the guilt from Mike's photos spreading with captions, the best friend and his mom. Nathan avoided Laura, ignored her texts, stayed off the roads to the cabin. But his heart didn't forget her. Her text this morning, meet me at the lakeside cafe, 9 a.m. I need to talk, pulled him here, unsure what awaits. The cafe door chimes. Laura walks in, wearing a beige sweater that hugs her frame, her hair tied low, her eyes calm yet deep. She smiles, seeing Nathan, a soft smile, free of the defiance from before. You're early, she says, sitting across from him, hands resting lightly on the table. Nathan nods, forcing a steady voice. Didn't want to keep you waiting. Laura orders a chamomile tea, her eyes tracing him, like she's memorizing his face. You doing okay? She asks softly. Nathan shrugs, a faint smile. Yeah, I'm good. Got a new place. Some work lined up. Laura gazes at the lake, her eyes distant, still painting, still living, but something's missing. They sit in the cafe's quiet, their eyes meeting, heavy with unspoken words. Nathan breaks the silence. Miss Laura, I think about you every day. About what happened. He pauses, his voice rough. I don't regret it, but I don't know what we do next. Laura smiles, her fingers brushing the rim of her teacup. I don't know either, Nathan. I tried to forget you, to be a mother, a wife, even if just in name. But you changed me. Her words cut, sweet and painful. Nathan sees her eyes glisten, but she holds her composure. I'm sorry about the gossip, he says, voice low. I didn't want to hurt you or Parker. Laura shakes her head, touching his hand, her fingers cool yet warm. Don't apologize. I don't care what they say. I only care about what I feel. Inside Nathan, the battle reignites. He thinks of Parker, their years of friendship, the times Parker had his back. He thinks of that rainy night, when he and Laura crossed the line, when he felt truly alive, even if forbidden. He wants to ask, can we keep going? But he knows the answer would only complicate things. Laura, too, grapples with silent questions. She thinks of Parker, her role as a mother, the years she lived for others, forgetting herself. She thinks of Nathan, how he made her feel seen, loved. She wants to hold him, but she knows the cost. Gossip, pain, cracks in her soul. Laura pulls a small folded paper from her purse, a sketch of wildflowers. This is for you, she says, handing it to him. I drew it, thinking of you. Nathan unfolds it, seeing soft, flowing lines, like a whisper of her. It's beautiful, he says, his voice trembling. Laura smiles. When I drew it, I saw you in it. Nathan grips the paper, speechless. He wants to hug her, to say he'll never forget her, but instead, he just looks at her, his eyes full of longing and regret. Ms. Laura, he says, voice rough. If things were different, do you think we... He trails off, unable to finish. Laura looks at him, her eyes a painting, beautiful and enigmatic. I don't know, Nathan. Maybe we don't need answers. Maybe it's enough to know that, for one moment, we truly lived. They sit in silence, hands not touching, but their eyes saying everything. Nathan wants to ask if she texts again, if they'll meet, if this is the end. But he doesn't. Laura doesn't speak either. She stands, leaving the sketch on the table, and says, if you're ever in Asheville, this cafe's always open and I'm still here. She smiles, an open smile, neither promising nor closing the door. Nathan steps outside, the sketch in hand. He glances back through the window, seeing Laura sitting there, watching him, a faint smile on her lips. He doesn't know if he'll return, if he'll dare text her, or if they'll remain two lines that crossed once and parted forever. He walks away, fog swirling, the sketch like an unanswered question. In his heart, Laura is still aflame, flickering or blazing, he's not sure. But he knows their story isn't truly over. Asterisk, did Nathan and Laura's story stir your heart? Asterisk, forbidden love, beautiful yet undefined, leaving questions unanswered. Have you ever faced a moment where your heart and mind clashed? Share your story in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to Hidden Tales for more heart-stirring love stories. Hit like, ring the bell, and join us in celebrating every spark of love, even the fleeting ones. Hidden Tales, where every moment of love deserves to be told.